restaurant. They were there for a really long time, there most of the night. And it came to that weird time of the night where the waiter comes over with the bill and he's kind of staring at everybody, not sure who it is that it's supposed to pass to, and nobody's saying anything. How many of you have been in that kind of place before? Yeah. The skunk says, "Don't look at me. I haven't got a cent." The duck says, "Put it on my bill." The cow says, "You'll have to ask the udders." The deer says, "I had a buck last week and I'm expecting a little dough soon." Snake said, "It's his turn to pay." Another snake said, "If you think I'm paying that, you can kiss my ass." I said The rhinoceros says, "Don't worry, when the waiter comes, I'll charge it." But the lion said, "I'll pay. I've still got my pride." That was a really awful joke. I'm sorry. But I needed something to kind of fill until you all came in and were quiet. I want to welcome everybody. Also want to welcome everybody listening online who are joining this rowdy bunch of party animals that we have here today. Wasn't worship awesome this morning? Man. I don't know what it is. I'm kind of in the mood to party. I absolutely love God. His timing is so absolutely cool. We planned this message series about 4 months ago. And 2 days ago, I got a call from our realtor that said the conditions have come off the 7th Avenue building. The deal has gone through. The building is sold. Yeah! Ah! Man, that is so cool. God is just so cool that we're starting a series called Party, right when there is just an amazing opportunity for us to party. You know, I was going through some photos last night, working on my message and procrastinating a little bit and struggling with it. And so going and looking back, and there are so many cool things that happened in that building. Just really amazing, wonderful things. And then we grew to a place where we outgrew the building. And so we moved on. And to be honest, the building became a bit of a boat anchor for us as a church when we outgrew it. We were losing about $3,500 a month on it. And there were times where it was really working on my character, if you know what I mean. I mean, really working on my character. Sometimes Jody would ask me to go home after I got home from church. Go elsewhere, go back to church because something had happened. There was another problem with the building, and I just came home cranky. And sure, we know that the church is not a building, that the church is the people. And at times, though, this building was making it hard for me to remember that. And often it made me a bit of a cranky party pooper. The world we live in is tough, though. It really is on people. Whether you're struggling with the weather, anyone sick of the snow? Anybody? Just a few of you. Okay. How about the lack of sunshine, the vitamin D thing starting to frustrate you? Some of you, yeah. Or maybe the world is tough on you because of the lack of sleep that you had last night, the time change. How many of you arrived late this morning because you didn't know there was a time change? One or two of you honest ones. Hey, Pavel. Hey, buddy. That's my kid. Anyways, maybe there are other reasons, though, that the world has been tough on you. We all struggle with different things at any given time. Some of us, maybe the world is tough on you because you recently lost a job, or maybe some of you are struggling financially and there isn't enough money at the end of the week to pay all of what's left in the end of the week, or maybe you've been separated from your family for a while, or maybe you just become a little bored at your job, or maybe there's been some trouble at school lately, or maybe you just need a vacation, or whatever. There's just this kind of like, the world can kind of like smack us upside the head sometimes, can it? However, even though the world comes at us that way, nobody ever wants to be the bummer in the group. Right? Nobody wants to be the negative Nancy or the Debbie Downer. I don't know what Nancy or Debbie did, but they got that name. Nobody wants to be the stick in the mud. Nobody wants to be the killjoy. Nobody wants to be the sourpuss in the group. Nobody wants to be the wet blanket, right? Nobody wants to be the party pooper. Nobody wants that. But if we stop and think, we still know those people, don't we? Whether they want to be that or not, how many of you know one of those people? Raise your hand. Okay, the rest of you, maybe you don't because you are that person. Sorry. But anyways, if we stop and think about it, nobody wants to be that person. And maybe for a while, to be honest, I was becoming that person because I was letting circumstances with the 7th Avenue building dictate my mood instead of what it is that I knew to be true. That God is always faithful and he has impeccable timing. That is absolutely true of him. But you can be one of two kinds of people. Those who let their environment affect their mood, emotions, and attitude, or those who take their mood, emotions, and attitude and choose to affect the environment around them with it. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Jesus had a bit of a reputation when he walked the earth, especially with the religious people of the day. They would see where he hung out and who it is that he hung out with, and they would call him down and spread all sorts of lies about him. But looking at the Jesus of the Bible, the truth is absolutely this. One, Jesus was always at the party. Always. Two, everybody was drawn to Jesus. Those things are absolutely true. You see it over and over and over again in the Bible. So some questions for you this morning. If you just turn to somebody beside you and for the next 3 minutes have a little bit of a discussion. Number one, what was the last thing that caused you to be a bit of a downer? Two, why are so many Christians stuffy and boring to be around if Jesus was not? Three, when was your last favorite party? Okay? Little conversation starter for you. Get things going. Talk to somebody beside you. Look around for somebody who doesn't have somebody that they can talk with and then have that conversation. You got 3 minutes. Go. Anybody have an answer for that second one? I just don't get it. I don't. Anybody? Yeah, you got an answer for the second one? Go ahead.
Too many people are focused on talking about God and not focused enough on being like Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, you want to come on up, brother? Preach it. No, I'm just kidding. But he was like, yeah, okay, I'm talking about this. That's awesome. Yeah.
I think too many people have rules and not relationships.
That's great. Yeah.
I think maybe they're not. It's just the stigma around it, the perception.
That is fair too. You know, sometimes there is a stigma around Christians, and yet, to be honest, some of my favorite people in the world are Christians. That is totally true. However, I do know a few of that other type. What? Yeah, sure. That is funny. I like that. You know, how about favorite parties? Anybody got favorite parties that they remember? Yeah? This morning. That's cool. Yeah, totally. Anybody else? I think for me, when I'm thinking back on one of my favorite parties, it has to be a 70s disco party that we had at the 7th Avenue building about 5 years ago to celebrate Easter. We called it the Staying Alive disco party to celebrate Easter because Jesus stayed alive after he died, which is pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. Anyways, a guy named Dan Stone, who died in a motorcycle crash. Good grief, I missed that guy this year. And Jan and a guy named Sarah and Alex, who have gone off to plant a church in Kelowna now. They got together and they threw this awesome party with music and dance and costumes and the hustle and limbo and you name. Oh, there's Dan right there. Go ahead. Where'd it go? What? Yeah. Oh, now you. Oh, yeah. It's my kid up there. I can hassle him. There's Dan, and how perfect is it that it is him leading the kids in that? It was an amazing night. It was a blast. I'm not really, that photo of the kids kind of says it all. I'm really not sure why I let my kid there in the helmet dress up like one of the village people. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's okay. Man, we had so much fun. It was a blast. Even this next guy, the following picture is rather disturbing and may not be suitable for all viewers. Ooh. Those pants are tight, aren't they? Sorry about that. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, take it off. Mom is crying in the front, Alec. Take it off. Take it off. He listens so well. Hangs on my every word. I'm going to speak on parenting next week. Just kidding. Anyways, we had so much fun. Cut it! Smarten up. You know, the cool thing is, Dan Stone even, this guy who put on this party, this guy really loved Jesus. He was, you could see it in him all the time. And Jesus loved to party. And so did Dan. Dan was always the life of the party. How many of you know people who are like that? The life of the party kind of folks? Man, they're awesome people. You know this type, they're the energizing, and they're dynamic, and they're fun to be around, and they always seem so carefree. Jesus was totally one of those people, because you become the life of the party when you enjoy the freedom of living out your life's purpose. And that's my point this morning, that you become the life of the party when you enjoy the freedom of living out your life's purpose. Jesus knew his purpose, and that propelled him into a pretty amazing life. And like Joel said last week, vision is important. You need to go back and listen to Joel's message if you missed it last week. It was awesome. But Jesus had a vision of what could be, and that produced a passion in him that was contagious and joyful and so freeing that people were just attracted to him like crazy. And I love the story of the time that Jesus invited himself over to a tax collector's house to have a party. And the tax collectors were hated by almost everybody back then. No offense to accountants and bookkeepers now. But the tax collectors back then represented the oppressive forces of the Roman army that had conquered Israel. And Jesus is touring a few cities before he heads back to Jerusalem to eventually face the cross. And he makes his last stop in a place called Jericho, just not that far from Jerusalem, which is where our story takes place today. And Jesus is walking around with this huge kind of entourage following him, and so that the streets were actually packed. They were packed in front of him, they were packed behind him, packed to the side of him, and it was like this one-man parade, but people had jumped over the barriers and were pushing to get close to Jesus. And it was probably pretty good news. I think he absolutely knew what he was doing when he called some burly fishermen to come follow him for a little while. I think they were more bouncers than anything else. But they could act like security and keep back all of the people, and yet they were still crowding in like crazy. And this one little guy named Zacchaeus couldn't see Jesus. So he does something daring. Let's read here, Luke 19. Jesus was going through the city of Jericho. In Jericho, there was a man named Zacchaeus. He was wealthy, a very important tax collector. Some translations call him the chief of the tax collectors. So this guy, you can imagine how well he was liked, eh? He wanted to see who Jesus was, and there were so many people who wanted to see Jesus too, but Zacchaeus was too short to see above the people. So he ran to a place where he knew Jesus would come, and then he climbed a sycamore tree so that he could see him. He went after Jesus. He ran after Jesus. He ignored decorum. I don't know if you remember what it is that the clothes were like there, but if you climbed up a tree, people could see what was going on up underneath. Anyways, so he gets up there anyways. He doesn't say, I don't care. In his personal safety, puts that aside, and he scampers up to see Jesus. When Jesus came to where Zacchaeus was, he looked up and he saw him in the tree. Like literally saw him. Jesus said, Zacchaeus, hurry, come down. I'm going to stay at your house today. And Zacchaeus hurried and he came down. He was happy to have Jesus in his house because Zacchaeus loved a good party and Jesus loved a good party. So let's have a party. And they head to his house, and many people flood into the house, and there's all sorts of things going on inside of the house. And yet some people chose to stay out. The religious, judgmental people who think that hanging out with those who don't have it all together might somehow damage them or corrupt them. They stayed out. They didn't want anything to do with that party. And everyone saw this. They began to complain. They said, oh man, look at the kind of man that Jesus is staying with. Zacchaeus is a sinner. But Jesus ignores them, and he continues to let them stay outside, all the wet blankets, the party poopers, while he and his followers hang out with Zacchaeus and his buddies. And after a short time, something happens, and which always happens when you spend time with Jesus. Quality time with Jesus has this effect. It says, Zacchaeus said to the Lord, I want to do good. In fact, I'm going to give half of my money to the poor. And if, I'm going to remember back, and if I've cheated anyone, I'm going to pay them back 4 times as much, 4 times more. See, time with Jesus changes people. And Zacchaeus is demonstrating an inner change through an outward action. Following Jesus in your head and your heart alone is not enough. Your faith is best shown through changed behavior in the form of love. And many people think that the possibility of transformation, if it exists at all, is a long ways away, a long time after inviting Jesus into your life. They think, oh, it'll be months before maybe even years before I finally kick this bad habit, before I develop this virtue, or before I can begin to change the person who it is that I am. But I'm telling you that change can happen today. Jesus is saying, today, let me come into your life. Welcome me into your home, into your heart. Let me help you become the person who it is that you were created to be. And if you haven't made the commitment to follow Jesus, then you don't have to put it off any longer. You don't have to wait until you're good enough or till you have it all figured out. That Jesus accepts you wherever it is that you're at right now. Today is the best day to come to Christ and just say, I need you. But to be honest this morning, I'm not talking to those folks for a little while. I want to talk to the believers right now, the Jesus followers right now. Those of you who have been following for a while, maybe even decades, and you've been putting off that final step of transformation, of going all in. You've got this bad habit that is constantly nagging you, plaguing you, this recurring kind of sin. But you pretend, it's not so bad. But don't. Make the choice to love God today by inviting him into those areas that have a grip on your life, whatever that is for you. Or maybe you've got a dream of what it is that you could do or could be in the future, but you just keep pushing it off and pushing it back for another day. Today is the day. Your transformation can be right now. Jesus is saying, bring me your hurts, bring me your problems, bring me your issues, bring me your hang-ups. Spend time with me today and watch how I can transform you supernaturally. Jesus is saying, come down from that sycamore tree. Stop watching me. Stop being a mere observer. Let me go to work in your life today so that you can go to work being who it is that you were created to be. Verse 9, Jesus said, today is the day for this family to be saved from sin. And we can be transformed today. That saved from sin means not just forgiven, but free from the power of sin over our life in the future. Forgiven and free. But just to make something clear about this, Zacchaeus wasn't saved because he gave his money to the poor. He gave his money to the poor because he was saved. See, he experienced the acceptance. He experienced grace. He experienced the mercy of Jesus, and it changed the way he lived. There was an effect. The change of heart leads to a change of behavior and a change in direction toward the calling that God has on your life. And then Jesus says, yes, even this tax collector is one of God's chosen people. Who are God's chosen people today? Everyone. He loves everyone. It's Jesus' will that none should perish, though we've been given free will. And we can absolutely choose to ignore him, choose to reject him. That's what love is. Love is choosing. It wouldn't be love if you couldn't choose. But then Jesus clearly stops and he tells all of them his purpose. I love this. It just couldn't be more clear. He said there can be no question. He says, the Son of Man, that's just a name that Jesus often called himself. He said, came to find lost people and save them. That's it. Jesus had a vision. And he was absolutely clear of his purpose while he was here on earth. The purpose of Jesus was to find people and save them. That was it. Everything he did on earth revolved around that purpose. Find people who were far from God and be a bridge back to God. He was very clear that he is the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through him. And that clarity of vision that he had for that, of purpose, created a freedom in Jesus, a joy and an enthusiasm that was infectious. It drew people to Jesus. Because you become the life of the party when you enjoy the freedom of living out your life's purpose. And Jesus was doing what he came to do, not spend time with the proud and the religious and the judgmental and the rebellious. No, he drew close to the humble, those who knew they needed saving from themselves, that they couldn't do life on their own. Jesus knew his purpose, and he walked it out. And that's an option for us as well. Doing what you were created to do is the best feeling in the world, you guys. When people are feeling that fulfillment, that happiness, that freedom to be themselves and spending time doing what it is that they were actually created for, it is like a virus. It is a love virus that catches everybody around them. And you can't help but be drawn to them because they are the party. The party goes wherever they are. So I want to ask you this morning, what is your life's purpose? You absolutely have got to figure this out. And then walk it out. If not, your life will have no joy, no passion, no fulfillment. You'll be the killjoy because you are joyless. You will be the party pooper because your life is crappy, pun intended. You'll be the Debbie Downer because you never look up long enough to realize that God loves you and has a plan for your life and he wants you to know it. You will be the bummer because you never get off your behind and do what it is that you're called to do, pun intended. So figure it out. Make it a priority. Don't put it off. And we can help you with that at this church. Meet with Joel and Dee and get some personal counsel. Take our classes, or maybe you have to take them again if you've forgotten. Talk with people in your connection group and ask them what it is that they see in you. Fulfilling your purpose is just far too important for you and for the world. There is no one else like you. You are here for a reason. You are unique. You've been given a specific gift set of talents and abilities and traits and character and personality and experiences that this world absolutely needs you to start functioning in what it is that you were created to do. Because if you don't do it, nobody else will. So get on this. Well, where can you start? Okay. Why don't you start by loving God and loving others? Okay, yeah, Frank, you say that all the time. But how? Let's be practical this morning. You know, our tagline for this service, for this series, was going to be, Jesus had a bit of a reputation. Why don't you? So maybe you need to throw some parties. Why? Because most people that I know will never throw their own parties. So you should do it. Most people will attend a party. They will. But hosting one, it feels like so much work. What they need is a catalyst for fun in their life. A catalyst to start the party. And we as Christ followers are called to be the love catalysts in this world. And like Jesus, people will love you for that. And perhaps even, if you spend regular time with Jesus prior to your party, you might actually become a little bit more like him. And that, in turn, may cause others to want to draw close to you to figure out what it is that's going on in your life. When you spend time with Jesus, it changes you. So get a bit of a reputation for throwing a party. You know, Jody and I bought a new house this year. So my mom could move in with us. She's in a wheelchair. And we moved into it last July. We had a lovely little elderly church lady as a tenant in our basement. It's got a basement suite when we took possession, and she was quick to say how excited she was that we were there, and was excited that a pastor was moving into the house. And 3 weeks. She lasted 3 weeks before she was like, and she came to us and she said, I'm sorry, but I'm an old lady, and you seem to have people over all the time, and there are kids running around like crazy all around your house, and you are just too busy of a family for me. I'm sorry, I can't live here. We're out. I'm out. We're out. Anyways, to be honest, guys, at first, I was a little offended. I'm like, oh, shoot. Oh, maybe. Then I thought about it. I'm like, good riddance. Honestly, I'm sorry. I am not trying to reach the reached and religious. I'm not. I want to have people over all the time. My goal is to have amazing parties for churched and unchurched people alike, so that we can get them together and interacting and having fun together, and so that one day they might ask, hey, what is with you? What's your deal anyways? I might have an opportunity to tell them what my deal is. That I know a guy who loved to throw a great party. So I like to throw a great party. Because I don't know about you guys, but maybe you've read the end of that big giant thing called the Bible. If you skip to the end, to the really good news, there is a fantastic party coming. Man, you guys, it is going to be off the hook. Where people from every tribe and every nation and every language come together and party with Jesus. If you don't like a party, you're going to hate heaven. It's going to be phenomenal. So shouldn't we maybe practice before we get there? Am I the only one who thinks that? You got to know this church has had a bit of a reputation from the start. And some of you, it was a long time before you ever came here because you heard the reputation. I mean, I've heard it. I've heard all sorts of things said about this church. All sorts of labels were given to us, mostly from the religious folks who tried to pigeonhole us. Things like the rock and roll church. Well, you wouldn't know it today. What the heck is that thing? What? Dobro. Dope, bro. Anyways, I've heard all sorts of things. I've heard church for dummies. I've heard that one before. I've heard church light. I've once heard that it was church for the unholy. And in that one, they are absolutely right. You guys, man, we know our purpose. And it is the same as that of Jesus. Our purpose is to seek and let Jesus save those who are lost. And we do that by creating a Sunday morning experience that is kind of real. It's who it is that we are. It's relaxed. It ideally is relevant to whatever it is that you're going through at any given time, and it should be fun. Man, if we don't celebrate here on a Sunday morning what it is that God has done in our life, then when else are you going to celebrate it? So it is kind of upbeat. It is kind of out there. And we try to have a Sunday where we can encourage one another, where we can challenge one another to actually live out the way that Jesus lived out, live our lives that way. And then we encourage those people who decided to come along with us to get some teaching, to learn and to grow. And we do that inside of our connection groups, where you challenge one another and you encourage one another and you spur one another on to good works and acts of love and parties. We do that. And then as people interact with Jesus and interact with other Jesus followers, that can't help but cause them to want to love just a little bit more, because Jesus is love. And so that challenges people to get out and not make it all about themselves, and to get out into the community and love the community. In fact, this year we've been asked to help, the city of Cranbrook approached us and asked to help with Canada Day again this year. So we're going to put on an amazing celebration for the 150th this year. How many of you are with us for that? It's going to be a blast. And Easter this year is going to be a blast too. We're heading, I don't know if you know this, but we are, for years, have kind of put on a huge kind of Easter celebration with an amazing Easter egg hunt for the community. But it sort of competed with what it is that Fort Steele was doing. And so this year we actually approached the fort and asked, how can we make what you do even better? What if we just came alongside of you, that we're no longer competing, but actually complementing and unifying what it is that's going on inside of this community? So we're going to have our Easter service out there at the Wild Horse Theater this year, and then we're going to help them make their egg hunts amazing, and we're going to lead kids in a really cool Easter parade. Maybe we'll have the Dobro out there. Dobro, did I say that right? Okay. We're going to love the community really well. It is going to be awesome. And we're also going to have Juno Award-winning artist Dan Bremnes back out again. If you haven't heard of Dan Bremnes, go on iTunes and download his stuff. He's phenomenal. But our hope is not only to love the community, but we also want to love the poor and the hurting of this world by getting a bunch of kids sponsored through Compassion Canada. And we want to love local, but we also want to love global. And so I want you to start thinking about now who it is that you can start inviting. Who are you going to have parties with soon so that you actually have some relational connection where you might be able to speak into their life, where they might actually come out to something they haven't gone to before. We love. And love draws people to connect, and it draws people to Jesus. We also think that other places would benefit from a church. So we have plans to start new churches for people who aren't into church in places that people don't have those types of churches already. So we're looking at expanding. Man, you guys, God has some big plans for this church. And to be really honest, there are some of you in here that are supposed to be part of those plans. That 2017, I don't know if you can sense it, there is something going on. There are so many things that are lining up, that God is about to do something really big. And we get to be on the forefront of it as we wait and we watch and we're obedient. We hear from him and then we act on it. We need each person knowing and understanding their purpose. So don't put it off any longer. Ask. Pray, seek Jesus for what it is that he has for you, and get to know the life. Get to know Jesus and become like him. It'll benefit you and others as you become the life of the party. Let's pray. Lord God, thank you for who it is that you are. Thank you that Jesus came and that he walked out this life, that he showed us how to live, but he also showed us how to get on a bridge back to you, God. That each and every one of us was created for relationship with you. And that Jesus is that bridge back to you. So, Father, as best as we can, we're saying we're going to believe. With everything that is in us, as much as we can muster up, we want to make Jesus our priority, our manager over our life. We want him to take control. We recognize that we are the hurting. We are the lost. We are the lonely. We are the broken. And we desperately need someone to save us from ourselves because we'll just screw it up. So, Father, come into our life in a more powerful way. Help us remember that we were created to love you and love others. Help us be practical about it by being catalysts in this community, catalysts of love, where the party goes wherever we go because the party is in us. That you are the way, the truth, and the life. Help us be the life of the party. In Jesus' name, amen.